During World War II, thousands of prisoners were subjected to unspeakable horrors at the hands of the guards. Among them was Dorothea Binz, a young woman who rose through the ranks to become one of the most notorious female guards at Ravensbruck, a predominantly female concentration camp. She earned a reputation for her cruel treatment of prisoners, including using her whip on the most fragile and frightened of female inmates. But what led to her actions, and how did she meet her ultimate fate? Join us as we explore the most justified execution of a sadistic female guard. During the Second World War, as the Allies and Red Army regained control of Nazi-occupied territory, the hidden concentration camps of the Third Reich were discovered across various regions, where the horrors of the Holocaust had taken place. The retreating Germans abandoned many of these camps, or forced prisoners to go on death marches to other locations, leaving thousands of prisoners starving without the basic necessities. Upon liberation, the scenes that greeted the liberators were shocking and akin to hell on earth. Ravensbrück, a predominantly female Nazi concentration camp, was also forced to relocate prisoners as the Soviet army advanced. However, upon arrival, the Red Army discovered around 3,500 emaciated prisoners left to perish. The atrocities committed at Ravensbrück were mainly by sadistic guards, including Dorothea Bins, a woman infamous for her extreme cruelty. Dorothea Bins was born into a lower-class German family in Brandenburg and grew up during Hitler's rise to power in Germany. As a teenager, she likely participated in the League of German Girls, or Maidens, which was the girls' counterpart to the Hitler Youth for boys. The League of German Girls had a different focus than the Hitler Youth, as it was designed to prepare girls for motherhood and domestic duties, such as cooking and housekeeping. The girls were also indoctrinated with Nazi ideology, which included promoting large families for the benefit of Hitler's Third Reich. Dorothy was educated until the age of 15, after which she decided to volunteer at Ravensbrück concentration camp, specifically in the kitchens. At the age of 19 in August 1939, Ravensbrück was a concentration camp located north of Berlin and housed many female prisoners during the Third Reich. Over 132,000 women were held in the camp, with the majority being held for political reasons. Camp also saw significant slave labor usage by Simons. Unfortunately, around 50,000 prisoners perished inside the camp due to disease, ill health, starvation, or various forms of murder. Despite the widespread perception that the female guards at Ravensbrück are particularly brutal, Dorothy was able to rapidly advance through the ranks at the prison and become an overseer position. There were approximately 4,000 SS female guards that were trained at Ravensbrück, the majority of whom went on to senior positions in other concentration camps. The staff included approximately 150 female SS guards who were trained to horribly brutalize and mistreat prisoners. Dorothy was seen as a star of the camp, and even overshadowed her superiors in different parts of Ravensbrück. This was the case despite the atrocities committed by the guards, such as Emma Graves and Ruth Neudeck, who were later sentenced to death for their crimes at Ravensbrück and other camps. They were later executed for their crimes at Ravensbrück and other camps. She worked in the kitchens and the laundry, in addition to supervising a bunker where she allegedly tortured and killed a large number of prisoners using brutal beatings. She also worked as a guard at the facility. When she first arrived at the camp, she was probably not much older than 19 years old at the most. This is an important fact to keep in mind. Dorothea Bins was only at the concentration camp for a little over a year when she was promoted to the position of deputy director of her penal block in September 1940. She went on to become the director of the block 2 years after that. In July of 1943, she was given the unofficial title of Deputy Chief Ward 2, which was later given to her officially. Bins earned a notorious reputation for her cruel treatment of prisoners, and she was especially dreaded for using her whip on the most fragile and frightened of female inmates. Her reputation as a violent person spread far and wide due to the fact that she regularly kicked, shot, whipped, stomped, abused, beat, and punched a large number of young women. When Binz appeared during roll call, the prisoners' fear of her was so great that they were unable to speak. She would frequently patrol the area with her German Shepherd, and she would use the dog to intimidate the detainees. Binz would also choose women to be executed as victims. Edward Browning, an SS officer, was her boyfriend, and the two of them had a lot of fun, going on dates together while watching women get flogged and whipped. They shared a home together outside the walls of the concentration camp. In addition to that, one of Binz's responsibilities at Ravensbruck was to instruct other women in the art of being brutal guards. The camp functioned as a training facility, and Binz was in charge of teaching a variety of courses at the facility. These courses were designed to convince future guards of the importance of cruel treatment. Former prisoners at Ravensbrück described the living conditions at the camp as being deplorable. Instead of being executed by gunshot, many were made to suffer and starve to death until they collapsed from exhaustion. The inmates had the impression that they had been reduced to nothing, and that they were not even worth the value of cattle. They toiled away until the day they passed away. One of the many guards at the concentration camp, Dorothea Binz, was one of the many who demoralized the inmates by making them feel like they were worthless and useless. Inmates were forced to perform back-breaking labor, and those who were unable to work were either put to death or subjected to inhumane treatment. The end of the Second World War necessitated the transfer of prisoners to concentration camps that were located closer to the core of the Third Reich, which led to the execution of death marches at Ravensbruck. Dorothea Binz, knowing that she would be tried as a war criminal and most likely sentenced to death after the war, attempted to flee during one of these marches on her bicycle. She was aware that she would be facing these charges. Binz, on the other hand, was taken into custody by the British on May 3, 1945 in Hamburg. He was then transported to the Recklinghausen concentration camp, where he was questioned and held. After that, she was taken to the Hamburg-Ravensbrück trials, which were conducted in front of a military tribunal and included defendants such as SS officers, doctors, and a large number of female guards. Dorothea Binz was defendant number 10 in the first trial, which lasted from December 5, 1946 until February 3, 1947, and took place from December 5, 1946 until February 3, 1947. On the scaffold, she met her end the notorious SS guard Dorothea Binz, who found pleasure in the operation of the concentration camp system. Prior to putting the noose around her neck, the executioner, Pierrepoint, positioned her and put a hood over her head before doing so. After that, Binz was led over to the trapdoor that had been marked with a chalk cross, and Pierrepoint pulled the lever to hang him as quickly as possible. Binz were responsible for committing atrocious war crimes within the camps, displaying extreme brutality and inflicting suffering on the prisoners. Despite the fact that she was only 27 years old at the time, she was responsible for these acts. To make matters even drier, she took it upon herself to instruct and persuade other female guards to carry out her methods, thereby increasing the magnitude of her contribution to the Holocaust. Her teachings were disseminated throughout the Reich, which resulted in additional atrocities being committed against an uncountable number of innocent people. As we conclude our discussion on Dorothea Binz and her heinous crimes committed at Ravensbrück, it is important to remember the atrocities that took place during the Holocaust and the countless lives that were lost. The sadistic acts committed by guards like Binz are a reminder of the darkest aspects of humanity and serve as a warning to the dangers of unchecked power and ideology. If you found this video informative, please consider sharing it with others and subscribing to our channel for more thought-provoking content.